Welcome back to the channel, my fellow traders. Just as NIO stock was beginning to look bullish and forming higher highs and higher lows, we got some terrible Chinese news that's causing the overall Chinese stock market to crash. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what you need to know along with its updated technical analysis, price target, and my exact personal strategy of exactly where to buy and exactly how to profit. So all I ask in return is that you subscribe so that this video can be pushed out to more NIO holders that need a better understanding of what's going on and what's next for the company. And so let's jump into the video. Alright, so the big bombshell news that really dropped a few hours ago and even last night was that Toyota is slashing production by 40% to 60% due to the Rona supply issues. Same thing again, Ford idles F-150 plant, and even as we can see, Ford stock took a beating, and overall, the EV market, any car stock in general, really took a beating because of that. The chip shortage is really just getting worse and worse. We're seeing all these different companies competing to try to get the chips, but the fact of the matter is that the shortage, the increased demand, it's not people aren't able to keep up with it. But apart from that, overall negative Chinese news is causing all Chinese stocks to drop. We can see Alibaba stock down 5.7% and just continuing to get absolutely decimated. And kind of a mistake on my part. I was beginning to get bullish on NIO, but failed to remember that China, the news has overall just been negative, and the fact that there was so much uncertainty. So the fact that last night, where China essentially said that China may take new actions to limit personal income and redistribute wealth, and overall as a result of that, that's going to negatively affect premium sellers, right? If Chinese consumers are urged to avoid status symbol purchases, demand for that sleek high-tech vehicles built by NIO and Tesla could as well soften. So this is negative Chinese news causing the overall market to drop. The government is willing to risk economic growth for their own agenda, and this overall is really hurting NIO and every other Chinese stock today. So I guess this really goes to show why fundamentals really go hand in hand with technicals, and no matter how bullish something might look on the technicals, at the end of the day, anything can happen in the good old stock market, right? News can come out, bullish, bad, good news, and just cause the stock to either crash or go to the moon. So now, taking this news into consideration, let's take a look at NIO's technical analysis and really look at a realistic way of how NIO could trade, because even though we were looking bullish, this news really just throws that all out the window, and now we have to look at the technicals and the overall trend from a higher view with all the fundamentals hand in hand with that. So let's jump into the technicals. Now, before we do jump into the technicals, if you want to learn technical analysis for yourself and a ton of advanced trading strategies, be sure to go get my new book, A Technical Trader's Handbook, on Amazon. That's now the #1 hot new release book in public finance in the world, so be sure to go get it. Alright, so taking a look at NIO stock on the hourly chart, we can see how we were forming lower lows and lower highs. Then we start forming higher highs and higher lows, and I told you guys to look to potentially add into this break above 38.9, because as you can see, we got a big spike to the upside, and we also broke above this previous lower high. Technically, we had broken out of the downtrend. Now, I made this video yesterday during midday, and at end of day, NIO stock actually ended up closing below this level, as you can see. So from that aspect, it was pretty bearish. But considering the fact that we were still in this higher high channel, I think it was very likely that we would have actually seen this new push higher had we not received this negative China news. Because as you can see, the overall market, Microsoft, Apple, most of the stocks have pushed higher, and I truly believe that if we hadn't gotten this negative China news, NIO stock probably would have continued higher in this higher high and higher low channel. So unfortunate, and really goes to show what's a bit of negative news can do to a stock. Now, taking a look at what's happening recently, we can see that the red MACD line has crossed below the green signal line, showing that buyers have lost some of that momentum, but again, we're oversold on the RSI. Now, what I realistically think could happen here is that there's potential that we could end up forming a double bottom at this level. We can see how we have support here at this level at about 36.7, right? 36.7, 36.8. We had a bottom here, we had a bottom here. Now, we could very well, essentially form a double bottom. We have our first bottom, this right up over here is our neckline, and then we have our second bottom before we eventually, break out to the upside. So now that's one potential scenario, and I'll discuss how to trade that in a little bit. But a few other things we can see is that, first of all, we've also broken below the 9 EMA, which is the blue line. That essentially shows that buyers are no longer willing to pay a premium compared to NIO's shorter term average price. So that's a little bearish right there. I mean, we just got in a 9 EMA cross to the 21 EMA. Right over here, the 21 EMA, which is the purple line, the 9 EMA essentially crossed above it, and it was looking like we were about to see a much bigger retracement to the upside before we ended up breaking lower. And again, the 9 EMA crossed back below the 21 EMA right over here. Going to the daily chart, yesterday I discussed how we had formed a long-legged doji right over here, right? And how long-legged doji signal potential consolidation and a change in direction. Like even right over here, long-legged doji, we saw a change in direction, right? So that's why long-legged dojis are so powerful, because they show that buyers and sellers have essentially reached a bottom or a peak, and that's why their strength is pretty much equal. Well, yesterday, based on the close, again, we formed another long-legged doji, and again, now we're changing direction again, pushing back lower. So from that aspect, again, that's another bearish point. So now that you get a rough understanding of the technicals as to how things are looking both bearish, bullish, and everything, let's talk about my exact strategy to profit and everything based off also the fundamental news that we just discussed. Now, before we do jump into the strategies, I just want to mention these are my personal strategies. I'm not a financial advisor, and most of the strategies that I discuss are short-term trading strategies, right? With NIO stock, with technical analysis, it's very hard to predict long-term trends as to what the stock's going to do for, months to come, but it's very good to predict, short-term trends, like what's going to happen within a day or the next couple of weeks, and that's why we've been pretty accurate. So now taking a look at NIO stock on the daily chart, we can see that we're at this crucial level of support here at $36, $37, where we had support over here. Now, the first scenario that I did outline is the fact that we form a double bottom, right? Right now, if I go back to the hourly chart, we can see again, we got our neckline up here, and then we got our two bottoms over here. So if this scenario ends up playing out, what you need to be watching for is for a break back above this neckline. Like I personally at this point, again, still wouldn't be buying NIO until we broke back above $39. Because again, this is our neckline. So in order for us to, reclaim that level and for us to see any, real move to the upside, we need to break back above, reclaim this level, and see some follow through higher before I really look to buy into this. Because what happens many times with stocks is that they seem like they're going to be forming a double bottom, but instead they push up and then they form a double top, right? They get one top up here, they get a double top, and then they end up dropping even lower. It's essentially a false double bottom. So that's why you always got to wait for the break above the neckline and the close above it. Wait for a break above this level, see if you can turn into support, continue higher, and then buy into that. And then after that, I think we then face strong resistance up here at 40.5. Now, as you can see, 40.5 was this essentially level where the downtrend began after we were forming this massive symmetrical triangle. So that's where the downtrend began. That's where shorts are going to have their stop losses, and that's where we trigger a big rally all the way up to $47. So that's the first scenario. But obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. So that's why I'm going to be breaking down what happens if we don't form this double bottom, because I think that is a very likely scenario at this point, right? We need to keep the fundamentals in mind. And the fact is, the fundamentals aren't looking overall that good, right? The chip shortage, Chinese crackdown, and the fact that NIO self-driving, as we reported on this channel a few days ago, their self-driving caused an unfortunate death, and they could potentially even be investigated for that, because as we saw, Tesla is now being investigated by the federal government for their self-driving, and who knows what the Chinese government is up to at this point, right? They're willing to stagnate their own economic growth, willing to hit their own companies to push their agenda and further their propaganda, right? So at this point, things are uncertain, and the scenario where it breaks down is very likely. So now if we don't end up getting that double bottom, then if I go to the the 6-month 4-hour chart, I could see NIO heading all the way back down to $34, $35. This is where we had our swing lows, right? Swing low, previous level of resistance. So this is a very strong base for the stock, even more so than where we're at right now at about $37. So it's very likely that we could even see a further bottom right over here, where then we get extremely oversold before we see any bottom. So that's the video, guys. If you appreciated this in-depth technical breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and go get my new book, A Technical Trader's Handbook, if you want to learn technical analysis for yourself. And I'll see you guys in the next one.